You are looking live at Launchpad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where a Soyuz 2.1A booster stands fully fueled, ready for launch to send an American astronaut and 2 Roscosmos cosmonauts into orbit on a 2-orbit, 3-hour journey to become the newest trio of residents aboard the International Space Station. Happy Thanksgiving from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room as countdown clocks tick backward for the launch of the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft atop its Soyuz booster at 3:27 and 57 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:27 and 57 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, 2:27 and 57 seconds p.m. at the launch site in Baikonur, where the skies are partly cloudy, temperatures in the mid-40s Fahrenheit. Earlier today, the Soyuz booster was fueled for launch by engineers at Baikonur, a process that was completed a few hours ago. The launch control team in Baikonur reports all systems are go for launch, no issues being worked, as the countdown enters its final phase. Here in Mission Control, the team is monitoring the work of the Expedition 73 crew as well as station systems on the International Space Station and is preparing to support the arrival of Soyuz MS-28 later today. The station population will increase temporarily from 7 to 10 with the addition of NASA astronaut Chris Williams and his Roscosmos crewmates, Soyuz Commander Sergey Kud-Sverchkov and Flight Engineer Sergey Mikaev. The Soyuz crew is all set to begin a flight of about 3 hours and 11 minutes in duration to the International Space Station, with docking scheduled at 6:38 a.m. Central Time, 7:38 a.m. Eastern Time to the Roscosmos module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. Around 2 hours after docking, the hatches will be opened between the newly arrived Soyuz and the station, and Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev will be greeted by Station Commander Sergey Ryzhikov and his crewmates, Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexei Zabritsky and Oleg Platonov, NASA astronauts Johnny Kim, Zena Cardman, and Mike Fink, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Kimiya Yui. One footnote: for Mike Fink, the veteran astronaut, today is his 500th day in space on his 4 flights, a notable milestone for Fink, a veteran astronaut and a veteran of several Soyuz missions and long-duration missions to the International Space Station. 500 days in space today for Mike Fink. After a handover of about 2 weeks, Kim, Zabritsky, and Ryzhikov will depart on the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft on December 8th, U.S. time, headed for a parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan after spending 8 months aboard the International Space Station. Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev will remain on the complex through the summer of 2026. Williams' launch today mirrors that of Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov, who launched to the station as part of the SpaceX Crew 11 Dragon Endeavour last August, providing a reciprocal crew exchange capability, maintaining safe and continuous space station operations. Here in Mission Control in Houston, the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers is on duty at this hour, led by Flight Director Diana Trujillo. She is joined on console at this hour by spacecraft communicator Mark Vande Hei, a veteran of 523 days in space on 2 Soyuz missions to the International Space Station. Vande Hei will be talking frequently to the space station crew during the course of this morning's operations, including the hatch opening and welcoming activities that will accompany the arrival of Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev on board the station later this morning. Again, you're looking live at the Soyuz 2.1A rocket on its launch pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Atop that rocket, encapsulated in the upper stage, is the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft. That's the ticket to ride today for Chris Williams, Sergey Kud-Sverchkov, and Sergey Mikaev. Liftoff again scheduled for 3:27 a.m. Central Time, 4:27 a.m. Eastern Time, 2:27 p.m. in Baikonur in the Central Asian Desert. The countdown currently standing at T-minus 52 minutes and 42 seconds and counting. Strapped into their seats in the descent module or center section of the three-segment Soyuz are NASA's Chris Williams, Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergey Kud-Sverchkov and Sergey Mikaev. Kud-Sverchkov, as Soyuz commander, is in the center seat of the descent module, flanked to his left by Mikaev, serving as board engineer number 1, and to Kud-Sverchkov's right is Chris Williams, serving as board engineer number 2. This is the first flight into space for Williams and Mikaev, Kud-Sverchkov's second flight into space. He has chalked up 185 days of spaceflight experience during expeditions 63 and 64 in 2020 and 2021. The countdown now inside the T-minus 52-minute mark to the launch of the Soyuz MS-28 crew to the International Space Station. For NASA's Chris Williams, today's launch marks the start of his first visit to the International Space Station and the culmination of his dream of a lifetime, a dream for an astronaut whose past accomplishments are very impressive and quite numerous. Let's take a moment now to learn more about Chris Williams and his road to becoming an astronaut.
The Soyuz rocket stands 162 feet tall, weighs about 640,000 pounds, and the whole
You know, I'm not entirely sure what was the initial spark for wanting to join Scouts, but my grandfather had been involved in the Boy Scouts, and when I was little, I loved the idea of the outdoors and going camping and kind of just this idea of like exploration. As a kid, you got the opportunity to be a leader, so you know, you as a middle schooler or high schooler were in charge of helping to get another group of your peers, you know, successfully through a weekend where you have to figure out what food you're gonna bring, make sure that everybody has a place to sleep, and make sure that you guys are all having fun. There's sort of a structure in Scouts where you have these different ranks and all of these sort of different milestones that you can work towards and achieve. And I think having the ability as sort of a kid to set these very clear goals, but also goals that are very achievable, where you can learn some really interesting things along the way. You know, merit badges, and I remember doing an astronomy and a space exploration merit badge, but also in other areas, first aid, that sort of, a lot of just good life skills that, you know, it kind of helps guide you towards, which I thought was really fun, and I really enjoyed doing as a kid. As a kid, I was always fascinated with space exploration. And understanding how the universe works, I wanted to be a physicist. So I wanted to study the stars, study astronomy and astrophysics. So what is astrophysics? To me, it really means using the laws and rules of physics to try to understand and explain how the universe works around you. So what I was working on for my PhD thesis was trying to build a new radio telescope that could help shed some light on the first few 100 million years of the universe's history, before the first stars and galaxies formed, so we could understand how that process happened. So this is kind of, they call it the dark ages of the universe. I jumped on with a group at MIT that was working on this, and I loved working with radio telescopes and radio instrumentation. And we were actually working on building a new radio telescope out in the middle of the desert in Western Australia. The idea to kind of go out into the field, work on building a new instrument to open up a new window on the universe just seemed really exciting to me. Even though a radio telescope, it may be a bunch of dishes, or in the case of the experiment I worked on, a bunch of just wire antennas laid out over the ground, you can actually use math to turn those signals into an image and a picture of the sky, which is absolutely fascinating. After graduating from college, I decided I wanted to do something to really give back very directly to my community, and there was a volunteer fire department down the street. Worked as a volunteer firefighter and EMT for a little bit. You know, I was finding a ton of satisfaction in this volunteer work that I was doing, where through medicine I was being able to really give back and help people on their worst day. So I made a little bit of change in my career after graduate school, and I jumped into the medical physics career. I said, maybe this is something where I can take my love and my passion for physics and use it to help people. It was great because it had a ton of parallels to the work I'd done in astronomy. The math, for instance, that you use to create an image from an MRI scanner is the exact same math that's used to create an image with a radio telescope. I had enough tools in my physics toolbox that even though I was using them on the human body and radiation and the interaction of radiation and cancer cells, like on the very small scale, my education and experience with the very large scale of the universe applied really directly. One of the things that I started learning at an early age through scouting, but I think that also helped me in my career, was realizing that you can do a whole lot more than maybe you think you can. One of the things that I found the most interesting about the astronaut training and training for a mission is how varied and different the skills are that you need to learn to be successful on a mission to the International Space Station. You know, one day I'm flying in a trainer aircraft, learning how to work together as a team with the other pilot and air traffic control. The next day, I'm underwater in a spacesuit, turning bolts on a mock-up of the International Space Station. So every day is different. I think that having something where you are exposed to a lot of different things in a lot of different disciplines, and you kind of prove to yourself that you can do it, I think that helps a lot in approaching a job like this, where you really have to execute at a high level in a whole bunch of different areas. It gives you the confidence to really feel like you can try and you can achieve it. I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is to be able to put all this training that I've done into practice and to do the job that I've been training for and looking forward to, ever since I was a little kid. And I think the view will not be so bad either. I'm Chris Williams, and I'm a NASA astronaut.
If you're just joining us, you're looking live inside the Soyuz MS-28 descent module on the launch pad at Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the Central Asian Desert. At the bottom of your screen is the Soyuz commander, Sergey Kud-Sverchkov, and at the top of your screen to his left is Sergey Mikaev, serving as board engineer number 1 aboard the Soyuz vehicle. Just out of the field of view, NASA's Chris Williams. The countdown is proceeding on schedule, approaching the T-minus 45-minute mark. 45 minutes from the launch of Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev. Liftoff scheduled at 3:27 and 57 seconds a.m. Central Time, 2:27 and 57 seconds p.m. in Baikonur. The countdown proceeding on schedule. No issues being reported by the launch engineers in Baikonur. The crew flew to the Baikonur Cosmodrome from their training base at Star City, Russia on November 11 for final pre-launch training and inspections of their Soyuz spacecraft. As the 3 crew members completed their training, the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft was encapsulated into the upper stage of the Soyuz booster in the integration building last week. After the 3 stages of the Soyuz booster were mated together, the rocket began its trek to the launch pad shortly after sunrise on Monday, transported to the pad horizontally on a rail car in a process that took about 30 minutes to complete. You just saw that video a moment ago. Once at the pad, the Soyuz was raised hydraulically to its vertical position for final pre-launch preparations that have been ongoing for the past 3 days. And now a good view of Chris Williams in the right-hand seat, right on cue, providing us with a wave from inside the descent module in the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft. As we monitor countdown clocks ticking backward for the launch of the next crew to the International Space Station just 43.5 minutes from now, the Soyuz booster is poised for launch, as we mentioned earlier, fully fueled with kerosene and liquid oxygen as its propellant. The Soyuz 2.1A is the vehicle for crews that launch to the International Space Station from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. It's also the workhorse of the Russian space program. Let's take a quick look at this Soyuz booster.
The Soyuz rocket stands 162 feet tall, weighs about 640,000 pounds, and consists of the Soyuz spacecraft inside a protective shroud at the top and the 3-stage Soyuz 2.1A booster below. The first stage has 4 liquid engines strapped to the side of the core vehicle. Each will burn for 1 minute and 58 seconds before they drop away. The core engine of the first stage also serves as the second stage and continues to burn until 4 minutes and 57 seconds into the flight. The third stage has a single engine that will ignite before the separation of the second stage, helping to push it away safely. It will burn until the 8 minutes and 46 seconds mark of the flight, and at that point the Soyuz spacecraft will separate from the third stage, having arrived at its preliminary orbit.
Once again, you're looking live inside the descent module of the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft. The music you hear is music selected by the crew members to be piped on board during this point in the countdown. That music specifically designed to help relax the crew in the final minutes before launch, with the countdown currently at T-minus 41 minutes, 43 seconds, and ticking backward for a launch at 3:27 and 57 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:27 and 57 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. As you see atop the 2.1A booster strapped into their seats in the descent module, which is the center section of that three-section Soyuz capsule, are NASA's Chris Williams, you see at the left-hand side of your screen. In the middle of your screen is the Soyuz commander, Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergey Kud-Sverchkov. Just out of the field of view to Kud-Sverchkov's left is Sergey Mikaev. The three sections of this Soyuz spacecraft are familiar to those who have watched previous missions to the International Space Station. Let's take a quick up-close look at this Soyuz spacecraft.
Of three modules. The descent module, situated in the middle of the Soyuz vehicle, contains customized seats for the crew members during launch, entry, and landing, and contains all the controls and displays necessary for the flight. It also houses life support systems, batteries for the re-entry and landing, and the parachute and soft landing rocket engines that slow the Soyuz just before touchdown as the spacecraft lands in Kazakhstan. There are 8 hydrogen peroxide thrusters located on the module, which are used to control the spacecraft's orientation, or attitude, during the descent until parachute deployment. The descent module also contains a guidance, navigation, and control system used to maneuver the vehicle during the descent phase of the mission. This descent module is 7.3 feet long, with a diameter of 7.1 feet and a habitable volume of 124 cubic feet. It is the only portion of the Soyuz that survives the return to Earth. The orbital module at the top is 9.8 feet long. It connects to the descent module via pressurized hatch. This is where the crew has a small amount of room to move around following launch during the flight to the space station. It has a docking mechanism, hatch, and rendezvous antennas located at the front end. The docking mechanism is used to dock with the space station, and the hatch allows entry into the orbiting complex. The rendezvous antennas are used by the automated docking system, which uses radar, to maneuver toward the station for docking. There is also a forward-looking window in the module that the crew can use to take manual measurements of distance and closing speed with a laser rangefinder in the event of failure of the rendezvous radar system. The propulsion module houses the oxygen storage tanks, the main engine, and the attitude control thrusters, avionics, and communication and control equipment. The propulsion portion of this module handles all orbital maneuvers, including those needed for the rendezvous with the space station and the deorbit burn at the end of the spacecraft's mission. Before they are deployed, the 2 solar arrays are folded against the body of the propulsion module, which, along with the orbital module, separates from the descent module after the deorbit burn. The solar panels span almost 35 feet. The entire spacecraft serves not only as a crew transport vehicle to and from the space station, but also as an emergency return vehicle in the unlikely event that the crew needs to leave the station unexpectedly.
Again, you are looking at the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Korolyov outside of Moscow, the large International Space Station flight control room there, where Russian flight controllers will take over control of the flight of the Soyuz MS-28 after it separates from the third stage of the Soyuz 2.1A booster. Then control is handed over from the launch engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur to the launch control team in Korolyov. About 10 minutes from now, we're expecting about a 15-minute B-roll feed to be provided to us via Roscosmos of all of the launch morning activities for the Soyuz MS-28 crew that began several hours ago. In the meantime, I'll run down for you all of the various milestones leading up to the launch itself. At the T-minus 7-minute mark, there will be a key inserted, a special key inserted into a mechanism at the Baikonur launch bunker, and by rotating that special key, the preparations for launch are transitioned to what is called automatic mode, equivalent to what you used to hear as the ground launch sequencer in the old space shuttle days. You're currently looking at the gantry arms spreading backward, rotating backward to a horizontal position, exposing the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft. That is basically the upper stage of the Soyuz booster for launch coming up in just about 36.5 minutes. At the T-minus 2-minute 45-second mark, the fuel and oxidizer tanks of the first stage will be pressurized to optimize fuel flow and to provide additional structural rigidity to the launch vehicle. There are two umbilicals that you see buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz booster. The first of those two umbilicals will retract at about the T-minus 30-second mark. The second of the two umbilicals retracts at about the T-minus 12-second mark. That initiates the ignition sequence of the first and second stage engines. The ignition of the first stage engines, basically engine start, comes in three phases: a preliminary, an intermediate, and then final, where the engines are up to full throttle. The hold-down posts will be retracted, and the Soyuz will be on its way. We have a 10-second launch window today, the Soyuz launching into a 14.4-degree launch phase angle. That's essentially the corridor, a very narrow corridor that the Soyuz must launch into. Think of it as a vehicle entering a highway from an on-ramp. You need to get in the right lane to hit that two-orbit rendezvous capability, which only comes about every several days based on orbital mechanics. Following launch, the launch escape tower will be jettisoned at the 1-minute 53-second mark, followed 5 seconds later by first stage separation and the jettisoning of the 4 strap-on boosters. The launch shroud, which encapsulates basically the upper stage of the Soyuz capsule, will be jettisoned at the 2-minute 34-second mark, just before second stage shutdown at the 4-minute 37 mark into the flight. Just about a second or two later, the second stage will separate, followed by third stage tower skirt jettison at the 4-minute 56-second mark. The next milestone will be third stage shutdown and orbital insertion at the 8-minute 46-second mark, followed by the Soyuz separation from the third stage, and then just seconds later, the automatic deployment of the Soyuz solar arrays and navigational antennas. Once again, you're hearing music piped into the Soyuz spacecraft by the ground engineers in Baikonur. This is traditional. It is music selected by the crew to relax them in the final minutes of the countdown as we have hit the T-minus 34-minute mark and counting. Once the Soyuz reaches its preliminary orbit, because of the fast-track two-orbit rendezvous profile that we're executing today, just after 4 a.m. Central Time, there will be what is called a DV1 burn. That is a delta velocity burn of about 22 meters per second that fine-tunes the Soyuz path to the International Space Station and comes about 17.5 minutes before the start of what is called automated rendezvous operations. There will be a series of additional burns, the activation of the Core's automated rendezvous system on the Soyuz, as well as the accompanying Core's equipment on the Zvezda service module. Basically, the two systems hone in on each other and lock each other as basically a radar beacon that bounces navigational data back and forth to ensure that the Soyuz is on the correct path to begin its fly around of the International Space Station. Just a note about our upcoming programming later in the morning. Assuming everything goes as planned, we'll be back on the air with rendezvous and docking coverage at 5:45 a.m. Central Time, 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time, leading to an automated docking of the Soyuz to the Roscosmos module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 6:38 a.m. Central, 7:38 a.m. Eastern Time. Once the docking is complete, the relative motion between the Soyuz and the station will dampen out, allowing the forward docking probe to be retracted to form a tight flush between the two docking mechanisms on Soyuz and the station, and enabling hooks to close on both sides of the docking interface. At that point, we have a hard mate between Soyuz and the station. Once that's complete, the Soyuz crew on their side of the docking interface and the station crew on the Roscosmos side of the station docking interface will begin leak checks to ensure that we have an airtight seal between the two spacecraft before the hatches are scheduled to swing open later this morning. The third of our broadcasts today will begin at 8:50 a.m. Central Time, 9:50 a.m. Eastern Time for hatch opening and welcoming remarks as Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev arrive on board to be joined by the Expedition 73 crew.
I copy 30 minutes readiness. Horizontal position for the structure offs.
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, you're looking live at Launchpad 6, Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The countdown now at the T-minus 30-minute mark and counting. No issues being worked by the engineers in Baikonur. It is a partly cloudy day in Baikonur, temperatures in the mid-40s Fahrenheit. We're about 2 minutes away from beginning a B-roll feed, courtesy of Roscosmos, of the launch morning activities for the Soyuz crew down in Baikonur. So we'll be standing by for the initiation of that 15-minute B-roll feed.
The closeout operations are complete. The crews have been evacuated at safe distance. The rescue crews. Copy. All the teams have been evacuated. Copy.
We have the info display set up, and we will proceed working for page 29. Copy, page 29.
The command team has been evacuated to designated locations. Copy.
Once again, we're standing by for the beginning of a B-roll feed from Baikonur, courtesy of Roscosmos, of the launch day activities by the Soyuz MS-28 crew. The countdown now at T-minus 28 minutes and counting. And here's the beginning of our B-roll feed, this showing the crew departing the Cosmonaut Hotel crew quarters to traditional farewell music. The crew boarding a bus for about a 35-minute ride to the integration and suit-up facility at Building 254 inside the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The prime crew in front wearing the blue jackets, the backup crew in the white jackets behind them, boarding separate buses outside of the Cosmonaut Hotel, where the crew has resided for the past 16 days.
Have a great flight.
Again, this was the scene several hours ago outside of the Cosmonaut Hotel crew quarters in Baikonur as Kud-Sverchkov, Mikaev, and Chris Williams boarded the bus, saying farewell to their families. They'll have another opportunity to see them again, as you'll see a short time from now, in the integration and suit-up facility after the crew has suited up for launch. The B-roll now transitions to the integration building. The crew members underwent final medical exams and, as you see, suited up in their Sokol launch and entry suits, one by one, moving to a mock-up of a Soyuz spacecraft seat to allow the technicians to conduct pressure checks, ensuring that their suits were airtight and free of any leaks. Kud-Sverchkov was first to have the pressure checks on his suit. He will be followed, as you'll see in the B-roll coming up momentarily, by Sergey Mikaev and then Chris Williams. And as you see, family members and invited guests looked on across a protective pane of glass maintaining quarantine. That suit up completed a little over 5 hours prior to launch.
Man, they're just being
And Kud-Sverchkov, the Soyuz commander, leading the way, exchanging final remarks with senior managers and family members.
Feeling great.
A final opportunity to receive expressions of good luck before departing for the launch pad.
How well fed? Excellent.
Омлет был. В этом году, наверное, последний омлет.
It was probably my last omelet this year.
And Sergey Mikaev conducting the pressure checks and the leak checks on his Sokol launch and entry suit.
Oh, you did? But it's another 6 months of that in Russia. So it asks a lot.
Ты думаешь, мы поэтому и летаем? Код в корабле.
So where's the cat? The cat is in the vehicle.
Я обещаю, что не учиться будет хорошо.
Вы встретили-то кого-то из другана своего Кирюха, не видели?
Have you met any of your friends? Kirill?
Once again, you're looking at video B-roll courtesy of Roscosmos of activities that preceded the crew boarding their Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft. This was a few hours ago.
Wish you good luck.
Хорошо, обязательно.
And get higher.
Yeah, mostly the computer.
Get your cameras ready. Hopefully you're going to have good visibility.
This is a very traditional activity in the integration and suit-up facility at Site 254 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, where the crew members have a final opportunity to exchange a bit of conversation with their family members, and then later with NASA and Roscosmos managers. And NASA's Chris Williams conducting the final leak checks on his Sokol launch and entry suit.
Please say hi back to him.
Hi, Ellie. You say привет?
Go ahead. Yeah. Do you want to ask Daddy anything? Ask me. Had a good night's sleep. Yeah. How uncomfortable is that suit? How uncomfortable is that suit?
It's actually pretty comfortable. It's made to fit. It's tailored.
Anna Kikina and Pyotr Dubrov, part of the backup crew. They'll be launching with NASA's Anil Menon next summer.
Well, if you want to grab it off the table instead.
And senior NASA and Roscosmos managers now having a brief opportunity to exchange greetings with the Soyuz MS-28 crew.
So Sergey, best of luck. You look excellent. God preserve you. You know everything. You can do everything. Let everything happen. Take place as it should. Alexei, Sergey, they're waiting for you there. And Sergey up on board will be able to provide any assistance you might need. So best of luck again. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so very much. From Energy, on behalf of Energy, I'd like to wish you all the best execution of all the tasks and objectives set. Thank you.
We're so proud of you, and I wish you the best of luck and a wonderful flight.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the crew are waiting for you on board. They look forward to this launch. It will be a fast launch and rendezvous docking profile. So wishing you everything per schedule, per plan, nominal. Good luck. Thank you. All right, let's support the crew.
Then, as tradition called for, the crew members left the Site 254 integration building, allowing Kud-Sverchkov, the Soyuz commander, to report that he and his crewmates were ready to proceed to the launch pad. You'll see in a moment the trio boarding their bus for the ride to launch Site 31. That occurred at about 11:45 p.m. Central Time last night, a trip that took a little less than an hour to complete across the sprawling launch complex.
The crew of the Soyuz MS-28 are ready for launch. Wishing you a good flight. Ready for launch. Good luck.
And the bus carrying the prime crew departing the parking lot at the Site 254 integration building, headed for the launch pad. And here is the last of our B-roll from Roscosmos this morning. The crew climbing a few stairs, waving goodbye to well-wishers, entering that elevator for the ride to the top of the Soyuz rocket to board their spacecraft, which they've now been aboard for the past 2 hours. And with the B-roll feed having been completed, we are now back live with a view of the Soyuz MS-28 at Site 31, Launchpad 6 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The countdown continuing to proceed on track, now at T-minus 13 minutes, 27 seconds and counting. At the time of launch, the International Space Station will be flying 260 miles over northwest Uzbekistan. The station will be 280 miles behind Soyuz and will pass directly over the Baikonur Cosmodrome 1 minute after Soyuz lifts off, eventually leapfrogging past the Soyuz as Kud-Sverchkov, Mikaev, and Williams climb to their preliminary orbit. 8 minutes and 46 seconds after launch, the third stage engine of the Soyuz booster will shut down, and the Soyuz will separate from its launch vehicle in its preliminary orbit, deploying its solar arrays and navigational antennas. At that point, the three Soyuz crew members will trail the space station by 1,025 miles, and the chase will begin, resulting in a docking to the Roscosmos module on the Earth-facing side of the station's Russian segment at around 6:38 a.m. Central Time, 7:38 a.m. Eastern Time. At the launch site on the steppe of Kazakhstan, NASA officials are on hand to watch the beginning of the journey for Chris Williams, Sergey Kud-Sverchkov, and Sergey Mikaev, and with them is NASA Public Affairs Officer Chelsea Bayarte, who filed this report a short time ago.
Thanks, Rob, and greetings from Baikonur. The bulk of the NASA delegation arrived early Saturday morning to get ready for today's launch. We have Ken Bowersox here, NASA's Associate Administrator for the Space Operations Mission Directorate. Norm Knight is here representing the Flight Operations Directorate, and representatives from the International Space Station program are here as well. The Williams family, who arrived on Friday, is here in full force, wearing shirts that say Chris's Crew. The family won't be participating in any Thanksgiving traditions here in Baikonur as they focus on the launch, but they tell me that they usually have a large family gathering, and it typically includes eating plantains, a nod to their family's heritage from Panama. We'll have to see what Thanksgiving celebrations await Williams when he gets to the space station. Williams and his crew arrived in Baikonur on November 11th, and on the 12th they were presented with the final configuration of their capsule and conducted a pressure check on their launch and entry suits. Soyuz launches are filled with traditions, and on November 20th, Chris Williams planted a tree in his name. His commander, who has flown before, watered a tree that he had planted previously. On the 26th, the crew participated in a news conference where they shared what their zero-G indicator would be. The crew will actually have two. The first one is a cat wearing a spacesuit that has ties to the commander's family, and the second is a little cosmonaut. The crew acquired it while on a visit to a school about 2 years ago, and they promised the students that they would use it as their zero-G indicator and will give it back to the school at the end of their mission. Everything is proceeding nominally here in Baikonur, and we are ready for launch. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Chelsea. We're approaching the T-minus 10-minute mark in the countdown. Everything continues to proceed on track. We're just a few minutes away from the point in the countdown where the key will be inserted in the launch bunker to transition the countdown to automatic mode.
5 minutes out.
Soyuz launch lead, this is Cratchit 1. All helmets are closed and the KSS rescue aids are ready. Copy. Rescue raids are set up and ready.
And as you're hearing through the interpreter, Sergey Kud-Sverchkov confirming that the crew has closed the visors to their helmets in the descent module, the center section of the Soyuz spacecraft, as we approach the T-minus 9-minute mark in the countdown. Once again, the launch with a 10-second launch window is precisely timed for the moment when the Earth's rotation places the Cosmodrome in the plane or corridor of the orbit of the space station, which is inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. The Soyuz 2.1A booster is a 3-stage rocket. The first stage, which consists of first-stage engine and 4 strap-on solid rocket boosters, will operate for about 1 minute and 58 seconds until it shuts down, with those strap-ons being jettisoned in what is called the cross of Korolyov, basically a cross-shaped pattern as they fall away from the rest of the Soyuz heading uphill. We're at T-minus 8 minutes and counting, 1 minute till the command for the key to start. Again, that's rotating a special key, a launch engineer at the blockhouse in Baikonur, transitioning the countdown in its terminal phase to its automatic mode.
Минутная готовность. Первый. 1 minute out. Copy. 1 minute readiness.
-1, everything is nominal. All controls are enabled on board.
1 minute readiness.
I will be broadcasting all my actions. Yes, this is Sketchet 1. We are ready. Everything is nominal on board. Copy.
As we pass the T-minus 7 minute mark in the countdown, Kud-Sverchkov reporting that he and his crewmates, Chris Williams and Sergey Mikaev, are ready for launch.
And the flight engineers through the S-arm, through the descent module camera.
T-minus 6 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. Everything is in good shape. The launch control reporting that the range at Baikonur is clear. The Soyuz rocket ready to begin its journey.
The complex is ready. Go for launch sequence.
Launch key inserted.
Go for launch sequence.
The launch key now has been inserted in the launch bunker, transitioning the launch sequence into its automatic mode. In about 30 seconds, onboard systems will be transitioned to onboard control. Again, in the descent module, the center section of the Soyuz MS-28 at the top of that rocket, Sergey Kud-Sverchkov, the Soyuz commander, in the center seat, flanked to his left by Sergey Mikaev, and to his right, NASA's Chris Williams. Williams and Mikaev about to embark on their first journey into space. This is the second flight into space for Kud-Sverchkov, a Baikonur native. T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
Go for nitrogen purging. We have nitrogen purging, 30 and 70.
The fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines are being purged with nitrogen right now. That fireproofs them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer from the base of the launch pad. We are at T-minus 4 minutes and counting. About 1 minute and 15 seconds from now, the booster's fuel tanks will be pressurized for flight. The skies have cleared nicely over the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Temperatures in the mid-40s Fahrenheit. All quiet here in Mission Control in Houston. The Orbit 1 team of flight controllers watching over the systems of the International Space Station in anticipation of the arrival of Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev a few hours from now. T-minus 3 minutes and counting.
Go for vent valve cycling.
Oxidize and fuel drain. Safety valve. Launch vehicle are closed.
Strip chart recorders in the Launch Control Center now activated to receive telemetry from the Soyuz booster.
Go over vent valve cycling. I copy the report.
T-minus 24 seconds, 2 minutes and 24 seconds and counting. The ground propellant feed in the process of being terminated to the rocket.
Copy 70. We have overall pressurization. 3070. Ground.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting. The booster tank's now pressurized for flight.
Copy. I copy the report.
Next up, the Soyuz will be placed on internal power. The two umbilicals you see at the bottom of your screen buttressed up against the Soyuz. The first of those two will be retracted at about the T-minus 33 second mark, followed at T-minus 12 seconds by the second umbilical separating. That will initiate the engine sequence start. Coming up on T-minus 1 minute. Mark, T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Ground power disconnect.
The vehicle on internal power. T-minus 34 seconds and counting. The first umbilical now retracting.
First umbilical tower from booster. Ground propellant field termination.
Tower from booster. Ground propellant feed terminated.
Copy all the reports. Tower off.
The second umbilical now retracting. Standing by for engine sequence start. We have main engine ignition. Preliminary, intermediary.
Second umbilical tower.
T-minus 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
At flight speed. Engines at maximum.
And liftoff. Holiday travel underway for the rocket ride to the International Space Station.
Maximum thrust. Control system parameters nominal.
Flight. All onboard systems are nominal.
All onboard systems are nominal. Good first stage performance reported from the blockhouse in Baikonur.
T plus 30 seconds.
30 seconds into the flight, the Soyuz booster arcing out to the northeast from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Good roll, pitch, and yaw program, good structural stability on the rocket.
T plus 50 seconds.
Engine chamber pressure is nominal.
Nominal on board.
Passing through the area of maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle, max Q as it's called.
T plus 70 seconds.
70 seconds into the flight. Good first stage engine performance reported.
Параметры системы управления ракеты-носителя в норме. 90.
And the view inside the descent module showing Kud-Sverchkov at the bottom. To his left, Sergey Mikaev. All engine parameters reported to be functioning normally.
The vehicle is nominal. Everything's fine on board as well. And we confirm pressure GGO parameters.
And we have confirmation of first stage separation. The strap-on boosters falling away nominally. 2 minutes and change since the launch of the Soyuz booster.
Stage separation is confirmed.
The Soyuz now operating on the power of its second stage engine.
Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме.
All structural parameters reported to be normal on the Soyuz.
Двигатель второй ступени работает нормально.
Coming up on the 3-minute mark.
We confirm
Есть сброс створок головного обтекателя.
The launch shroud encapsulating the Soyuz booster, the Soyuz spacecraft, has now been jettisoned. 3 minutes into the flight, this view from the camera on the upper stage of the Soyuz 2.1A booster.
and we confirm everything's fine on board.
Полет нормальный. Время КП 12 часов 27 минут 57 секунд 402 миллисекунды.
190 seconds into the flight, the reports are continuing to come in, and all is green from the blockhouse in Baikonur.
Second stage is nominal.
200 seconds. Second stage thrusters are working nominally.
Second stage thrusters reported to be operating normally. Good structural stability.
Flight is nominal.
220 seconds, nominal flight.
Coming up on the 4-minute mark into the flight.
Copy, everything's fine on board. We're feeling great.
Kud-Sverchkov reports he and his crewmates are in good shape, feeling great. The second stage shutdown scheduled at the 4-minute, 37-second mark into the flight.
T plus 50. Your pitch and roll are all nominal, and we, on our side, everything's fine on board. We're feeling good. T plus 270 seconds. The vehicle is nominal. Everything's fine on board. We're feeling good.
And we have second stage shutdown.
Second stage separation confirmed. Copy. Second stage separation is confirmed.
Lower skirt has been separated. The third stage engine now propelling the Soyuz to its preliminary orbit, providing 67,000 pounds of thrust. This burn will continue until about the 8-minute 46-second mark, when it will shut down and the Soyuz will be placed into its preliminary orbit.
The vehicle is nominal. Copy. Everything's fine on board.
Coming up on the 6-minute mark into the flight.
T plus 3.
About 2 minutes and 46 seconds of powered flight remaining.
Everything's fine on board. We're feeling good.
Good reports on the performance of the third stage engine.
30 seconds. Engines working nominally. Copy.
6.5 minutes into the flight.
Feeling fine on board.
A little over 2 minutes of powered flight remaining. Liftoff time was confirmed at 3:27 and 57 seconds a.m. Central Time, 2:27 and 57 seconds p.m. at the launch site in Baikonur. Passing 7 minutes into the flight, about 1 minute 46 seconds of powered flight remaining.
T plus 420 seconds. Your pitch and roll are all nominal. Copy. We're feeling good. T plus 450 seconds. Nominal flight. Copy. The crew is feeling fine.
We're approaching the 8-minute mark into the flight, less than a minute of powered flight remaining.
T plus 480. The vehicle is stable. Copy. And everything's okay on board, and we're feeling good. T plus 500 seconds. Nominal flight.
The third stage engine beginning to throttle down in preparation for its shutdown and separation.
510 seconds. T plus 520. Third stage. Get ready for third stage separation.
And we have third stage shutdown and separation. A nominal ride uphill for Williams, Kud-Sverchkov, and Mikaev. We'll be watching momentarily for the deployment of the solar arrays and the navigational antennas on the MS-28. And there they go. And we now have confirmation that the arrays and navigational antennas have all been deployed normally. A perfect ride uphill for the soon-to-be newest trio of residents of the International Space Station.
We confirm a third stage separation was nominal. Great. Now close RPV 1 and 2. So that's going to be parameters 21. Copy. RPV 1 is closed. Unintelligible. Repress.
A perfect ride uphill for the 3 crew members aboard the Soyuz MS-28.
Put in Ctrl S com in work and close the launch insertion display. 37 minutes. Pressure in BO is 824. Next pressure is 884.
The crew on board Soyuz MS-28, led by the commander, Sergey Kud-Sverchkov, the Soyuz commander.
Moving on to page 36.
In the process of receiving parameters from the Russian mission controllers in Korolyov outside of Moscow, who are now in control of the flight of Soyuz to the station, following a flawless launch and ascent to its preliminary orbit.
Dynamic mode is enabled at 12:10. And we see that you turned on the video. We are receiving the video signal from you.
And there's a view of the control panel inside the Soyuz spacecraft with a variety of different technical parameters. that are being monitored by the launch control team in Baikonur, as well as the flight controllers in Korolyov at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow.
Went through, and we are turning off repress. Copy. And we're standing by for form 03.
The next burn
17.
in the sequence of rendezvous maneuvers is scheduled just after 4 a.m. Central Time. This is our first view from an external television camera on the Soyuz. This will come into play more prominently when we get back into our next broadcast for rendezvous and docking to the Rosviet module of the International Space Station. Coming up just after 4 a.m. will be what is called the DV-1 burn, the Delta Velocity 1 burn. That will increase the speed of the Soyuz by about 22 meters per second, fine-tuning its path on route to a fast-track rendezvous with the space station later this morning.
23rd, 326, 24, 17.7, 25th, 17.2, 26, 272, and prop is 878. We copy all Cratchit 2. And
the Soyuz crew is testing now one of the redundant sets of the Corps' automated rendezvous system that will guide the Soyuz into an automated docking to the Rosviet module. In the unlikely event anything would happen that would inhibit the Corps system from operating normally, Kud-Sverchkov will take over manual control of the flying of the Soyuz for its docking. But the Corps system is up and running and currently being tested, and everything appears to be in good shape. Back here in Mission Control in Houston, the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers has had its morning daily planning conference with the Expedition 73 crew aboard the station, who watched the launch of Soyuz MS-28 on a video uplink to the station itself. Everything aboard the station is in readiness for the arrival of the newest trio of residents for the complex, as Williams, Mikaev, and Kud-Sverchkov are in the early minutes of their ride to the station that will culminate with a automated docking to the Rosviet module at 6:38 a.m. Central Time, 7:38 a.m. Eastern Time. We will be back on the air with our rendezvous and docking coverage, as you see on this graphic, at 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:45 a.m. Central Time, following today's successful launch of Soyuz MS-28. So we'll see you back here in a couple of hours. In the meantime, happy Thanksgiving once again. This is Mission Control Houston.
3, 5, 7, and 9.
Campaign in coordination with the International Asteroid Warning Network to try to get the worldwide community together to gather observations about physical properties of an asteroid and turn that around quickly.
So we essentially had a very short 5